Welcome, Rotarians. We're going to reestablish a long-time tradition today with my friend Nicholas Adams singing with us. So Nicholas, come on up.
Would you all please stand and join me in God Bless America? If you're watching online, you don't need to stand, but I hope you'll sing with us. Okay, Sean Cuttle says please stand, even if you're on Zoom. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America. God bless America, my home, sweet home. You're all an excellent voice this afternoon.
Next week, we're going to have Sarah Klisch leading us in song. Sarah, get prepared. A reminder, quiet in the house, please. We have free tickets, a free ticket offer to all of us to go to the San Jose State football game this weekend. Go to the website, the instructions are there, and this is all compliments of John Poach. John used to be a member. I think we're going to get him back in the club. He's a wonderful guy, but please go support the Spartans, go to the game, have a good time. I don't know, Carl, who are they playing? Carl, do you know who they're playing? New Mexico State. It's a big one, everybody. New Mexico State. Thanks, Carl. Guest introductions. Please come up to the microphone and bring your guest with you when you come up, please. Are there any guests today? Is that possible that there are no guests? I know I saw one guest somewhere. Well, that was a fail. No, one more. President. Oh, Nicholas, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. President Borkenhagen, that has such a great ring to it, doesn't it? Nicholas Adams, Classification Public Relations. I'm introducing Pam Foley's guest. She couldn't be at the meeting today in person. So on behalf of Councilmember Foley, I'm introducing Chris Peacock, who is in communications at Stanford University. Please welcome Mr. Peacock.
Welcome, Chris. Mike, before you go, give me just a moment. Mike Danberger, we're right on the edge of feedback up here. I'm hearing ringing. Thank you. Mike Conniff, go ahead.
Yeah, President Steve, thank you very much. Mike Conniff from San Jose State, retired. I'm very pleased to introduce five students, in fact, from San Jose State. They are the leaders of a Rotary Club that was begun last year with the support of our San Jose State committee. We've got Matthew, we have Raisa, we have Audrey, and Jenna is the president of their club. And we're very, very happy. This is the first time we've had them all here. And let's give them a welcome hand, okay?
Welcome to all of you.
Hello, President Steve. I'm very happy to have my guest here, Nader Rumi, who is a pilot for United Airlines. And he was one of the first families in 1981 to come from Afghanistan as a refugee.
Wow, welcome, welcome. Anyone else? Hey, Jenna. Where's Jenna? Come over to the microphone, would you, Jenna? Or actually, come on up here. I'm going to let Jenna tell us a little bit about their club at San Jose State.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to finally be here in person. My name is Jenna Prasadi. I'm a fourth-year finance student at San Jose State University. We started our Rotary Club actually last spring with the help of Michael Conniff, Janet Persai, and then our other mentor, Lisa Nafraelli. And so we were primarily online, so we focused mainly on climate change and sustainability. And then finally, now that we are in person, we hope to do more volunteer work. So last weekend, we had our first event as we helped build homeless hygiene kits, which is very fun. And then this week, we're also doing litter pickups. And so we hope to continue expanding our network with all of you amazing Rotarians, as well as continuing to make an impact at large through volunteering and service work.
She got the memo about being brief, getting right to the point. Wasn't that great? I didn't even conspire with her, seriously. We have what we call our new member COVID cohort. These are people who joined while we were 100% virtual with Zoom while Fernando was president. And so we're periodically letting them introduce themselves with 1 minute or so speeches. David Beanie, you here, David? Then after David, Terry Harmon, if you're here, and then following Terry will be Jeff Poley. So come on up, David. With David and me, you get the two extremes of hairstyles.
Thank you, President Steve. I'm glad to be here today. I was really excited after having given my first introduction on Zoom to hear that I have an additional 10 minutes today. I was up all night preparing this speech, but fortunately I forgot it. As you heard, my name is David Beanie. Some of you know me in my role as Executive Director for the Building Trades Council, where I represent 27 different craft unions in construction. My most important role is father of 2 children, and that's the one you may hear me talk about most, because it's the one that excites me most. I serve in a number of other roles, and I'm proud to serve as a member of Rotary as well. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next up, Terry.
Hi, everyone. It's very good to see so many people in person and live. My name is Terry Harmon, and I have been a proud supporter of Rotary for many years, going back to high school, where I won some scholarship money through the local Rotary Club, which was much, much appreciated. And then, of course, when I was a research attorney, I got to work with maybe the most famous judicial Rotarian, Judge Thomas Hastings, who always set a good example. And then I was proud to be sponsored by parents in the New Towery, who I know through my work in the DA's office, who has been both a mentor and friend. And I'm very excited as we push past the pandemic and hopefully get rid of the masks any day now, that we will enjoy some true community solutions to the problems out there. Thank you so much.
Next up, my friend Jeff Poley.
Well, the last time I was here was about 20 years ago, and my beard still had color in it, and I still had quite a bit of hair left in my head. 25 years, thank you for that correction out there. I was formerly with Southern Lumber Company, which the old folks around here may recognize, but if you came here in the past 5 or 6 years, you probably never heard of it before. Stopped the business. I've been in the business for all of my life, through 3 generations of Poleys there, and I actually had the 4th generation working there for a short period of time, but got out of that, wanted to do something different with my life, so I started exploring the art scenes at the local community colleges, and I have been on a very leisurely, fun path of exploring art and not being able to settle in on one discipline or the other. But I am looking forward to reigniting my passion here for Rotary and getting some stuff done for our community. Thank you very much.
Every chance you get, please sit next to people with red badges, get to know them. These are wonderful people. They need guidance from all of us about how Rotary works and ways that they can support our mission. So please go out of your way to do that. Next up, Suzanne St. John Crane. Suzanne here? Here. I'm going to talk briefly about the program committee.
I had to run up here in heels, for God's sake. I'll take an applause. Okay. Forget how these work. Hi, everybody. How's it going? Good to see everybody. Woohoo, in person. So, when I joined Rotary 10 years ago, I happily attended meetings every week, not really understanding how the speakers were chosen. And I thought, I'm going to be fully transparent about this with you all and have you be a part of the process of selecting and nominating speakers, is really encouraging your participation in this process. So first of all, anybody in Rotary can recommend a speaker. So if you are seeing, too many politicians up here speaking each week, or too big a focus on sports, or too many liberal-leaning voices, or whatever it may be, you get to nominate names. You get to throw some names at us, and we will consider them, because we want to make sure we have a good broad range of topics and voices represented up here. So here's what we're looking for. This is really important, Rotarians. Number one, we need really good public speakers, right? So people, make sure you've seen them speak in public. Have you seen a video of them? People snoring and playing with their phones while this person's speaking? Probably not a good idea to invite them. Number two, speakers cannot pitch from the podium, right? So no selling anything. If it's an author, we could have books in the foyer out there, but we cannot have folks actively pitching up here. Number three, they've got to have something compelling to talk about, right? So, what's relevant right now? What might be fun to kind of throw in the mix, given other topics that we've had this year? Think about that, and please send us your suggestions. And then finally, a real priority for me as the program chair has been, the program committee is looking for a wide range of voices and diverse backgrounds. This really ties to Rotary's intention of having a more diverse club and attracting more diverse voices. If we want to sustain a diverse membership that reflects the community we serve, those diverse voices need to see themselves represented in who gets chosen to speak. So let's all be really mindful about who we're putting forward and nominating to come up and share their stories. So just a reminder, we co-create these meetings, right? We are not customers of Rotary, we are citizens of it. So let's all be a part of making the program special and fun and engaging for our membership. So if you have any suggestions, I'm gonna call out my program committee folks here. I think we have a couple in the room. Raise your hand if you're on the program committee. Jenica, Steve, yay. All right, awesome. Give us some names, because we would love to hear from you if you've got some names to put forward. And if you really, really want to have some fun, you can join the committee. It's once a month. It's Tuesdays, 11:45 to 1. So it's a lunchtime meeting on Zoom. And boy, we have a good time. There's a lot of opinions, but yeah, there's a lot of opinions. Anyway, thanks for listening, Rotarians. Appreciate your support.
Carl Salas and Nick Greco, come on up. We're going to talk about the Play Garden. Those of you who have never been there, you must go. This is one of the best projects any Rotary Club in the world has ever done. Maybe even the best project. So Carl and Nick.
Stole my thunder, Steve. I joined Nick's Play Garden Committee about 6 months ago because it's the Play Garden. Have you been at the Play Garden lately? It was closed for a year. It's back open. It's had we're getting about 800,000 people to date. It's an amazing place. And Nick's committee once a year does this event for Parents Helping Parents. And we don't necessarily want you to come to that, but we're using it as a way to facilitate a little honoring of Julie and Mel Matsushima. The committee bought a bench for them engraved as visionaries of the Play Garden. And after the Parents Helping Parents thing, which goes from about 2 till 5 or 5:30, we're going to be having a little get-together where we announce to Julie that we have the bench, honor Mel, and have some wine and cheese. So it's going to be from 5:45 to 6:30 on October 18th. There's something on your table right there. And Nick, give me a little more on that.
Thanks, Carl. Carl's our committee's Flavor Flav hype man. Thank you for that. He also happened to steal all of my thunder as he stole his. This is the story. You see it up on the slide up there. Normally, this event is for all of us, for our friends, our families, our children, grandchildren. But this year, because of COVID, we just can't make that happen for everybody. So instead, we wanted to do something special for Julie and Mel Matsushima, who are Play Garden visionaries and so critical to the success of the ongoing success of the Play Garden. So if you'll join us, please, for about 45 minutes at the end of the Parents Helping Parents portion of the event, We'll have some light drinks, snacks, some guest speakers, including Supervisor Susan Ellenberg, and we'll be able to unveil the bench in her honor. So please do join us. It is our club's signature project, and excuse me, and it'll be a special night for all of us. So please do join us.
It's a rare chance to have the whole play garden to ourselves and a glass of wine. Very rare.
Sarah Klish, you want to come on up? So I hadn't told Sarah she's going to sing next week until a couple minutes ago, so hopefully she'll do some practicing. Sarah's going to talk about the Lee Weimers program.
So many of you have had the opportunity to join us for our Lee Weimers presentations. We have 4 more artists that we are going to be giving awards to on October the 13th. In order to make sure that everybody is able to participate fully, those who are at home on Zoom and those who will be here in person, the artists will be here to introduce themselves, and so those of you who are here can have a chance to chat with them afterwards. Their presentations are already pre-recorded, so they will be, we'll be showing videos so that those people who are at home can also see a really high quality presentation. Because of that, you can share this with a larger audience. So I encourage you to send out information about this meeting to your friends and family, even if they don't live here locally, because they can join us on Zoom and be able to experience this very amazing program live. For those of you who have experienced it, we get feedback from many of you that it's one of the best meetings of the year. So I encourage you to come here if you can, join us on Zoom, and by all means, share it with as many people as you can. We'd love to get those artists as much exposure as possible. Thanks very much.
Reminder to everyone in the room, the Military Care Committee has a table up in the lobby. They have many, many cards that are going to be mailed to military service members. If you can all think about the times you've gotten handwritten notes and what it means to you, I'm sure it's far more intense if someone's in the military, especially stationed in someplace dangerous, to get a card from someone here at home. So they've got a few more. After the meeting, would you just take a minute, stop at the table, write a note. It'll make you feel good, and it'll be a wonderful gift to some member of the military. So please support Catherine and her committee. So I've got a couple of tickets to give away to the International Feast this Friday night. And the way we're going to do this is I'm going to ask some questions. And if you know the answer to the question, don't talk about it, stand up. And then if I'm going to ask a few questions, and if you know the answer to all the questions, remain standing. And then this will be on the honor system, 4-way test. And then I'm going to ask someone, well, depending on how many people end up standing, to actually answer the question. So question number 1 is, who is our most senior member of Rotary? I mean based on birth date, not based on the date that person joined Rotary. If you know who our oldest member is, stand up. Well, this is going to be a short one. 2, 3, that's pretty good. Okay, next question is, who has been a member of this club longer than anyone else? 3 of you guys are still standing? Well done. Next question. Alphabetically, who is the first person in the alphabet and the last person in the alphabet based on last name? Stay standing. Give it a shot, guys. Stay standing. Okay, so again, using the 4-way test. Is that Rod? Rod, let's start with you. Come on over to the microphone. Who is our oldest member, Rod?
Well, our oldest member is Ron James, but he is not oldest in age. I think David Downs is the oldest.
So you failed doubly. You can go sit down, Rod. Thank you for a noble attempt. Fernando, come on over and give it a try. Although, did you have the same answer as Rod did to our eldest member?
Of course not.
Good. Who do you have, Fernando?
David Downs.
Wrong. Have a seat, Fernando. Enjoy yourself. Brad Barron, come on over to the microphone. So Brad, I hope you have an answer other than David Down and Ron James for our oldest member, do you?
I do not.
So I've got 2 tickets to this international feast for anyone who wants to come up and tell me who our oldest member of the club is. And I'm going to give you a hint. It's a man, and he's 99 years old. Still no one. Okay. Carl.
Can I guess and you give the tickets to some of the kids? I've already bought
indeed.
my tickets. It's Vic Corsiglia, isn't it?
It is not Vic Corsiglia, but not a bad guess. So since nobody got it, I'm going to tell you the answers. So our oldest member, you all should give him a phone call or send him a note, is Frank Biscolini. Somebody knew there but didn't have the courage to go to the microphone. I should penalize you, Sarah. And then I also have our youngest member is a new member, Kiko Barr. Kiko was born in 1993. And the members who have been members for the longest period, which is what really Rod and Fernando and Brad were dealing with, is Ron James and David Down, who joined the club in what year? 52. Who got that? Brad gets some kind of a booby prize. And our alphabetical answer is Allison Abbott Klein is our A, and our Z is pretty easy. Anybody know the Z? No, not Fernando. Ron Zrake, ZR, hard to beat. And then my bonus question was going to be, who's the tallest member of the club? Nicholas, what do you think? Sean O'Kane. Sean used to be 6'9", and now he's about 6'4". We cut him down to size over the years. So I'm going to take these 2 tickets, and I'm going to offer them to our 4 guests from San Jose State. So after the meeting, if any of you are interested in attending, please come see me. And Janica Clem. Janica, are you here somewhere? Come on up and introduce today's speaker. And I do want to thank all of you who are here in person today. It means a lot to me. I was worried at about 12:50 that we were going to have about 9 people. It's me, Bert, Brad, Steve, and Paul Sean. So with that, Janica Clem.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see you. I first want to introduce my guests for today. Joining us are Megan Sweezy Fogarty. She is the Associate Vice President of Community Engagement at Stanford, as well as Martin Schell, who is the Vice President and Chief External Relations Officer at Stanford. So now to our speaker. Pioneering neuroscientist Mark Tessier-Levine became Stanford University's 11th president on September 1st, 2016. He returned to Stanford after serving as president at Rockefeller University, a graduate biomedical research university in New York City. From 2001 to 2005, he was a professor of biological sciences at Stanford, where he held the Susan B. Ford Professorship in Humanities and Sciences. He has also held faculty positions at the University of California, San Francisco, and executive positions at biotechnology company Genentech. Please welcome Stanford President Mark Tessier-Levine.
Well, thank you, Janica, for that introduction, and thank you for the invitation. I also want to thank Steve Borkenhagen, Suzanne St. John Crane, and also the entire club for inviting me to join you today. I wish I were there with you in person, but it's nonetheless wonderful to gather with many friends and neighbors of Stanford, even virtually. I know that some of you may have a connection to the university, whether as alumni or parents, or as longtime neighbors in our region. Many in our Stanford community call Stanford home. Santa Clara County is home to nearly 9,000 Stanford employees, and more than 1,800 live in San Jose itself. And our university has strong ties to this community. The past 18 months also have reinforced just how deeply linked we are with our neighbors and with our surrounding region. So I'm really grateful to have this chance to spend time with you today. I'm really looking forward to your questions. I'm also looking forward to hearing your perspectives on Stanford and on its future. I thought it would be good for me to start by spending a few minutes speaking about higher education is changing as a result of the pandemic, as well as how we're working at Stanford specifically to address regional issues in partnership with our local communities. But if you don't mind, I'll start by elaborating a little bit about my own background, which Janiki's already introduced, and my personal connection with the region. As Janiki mentioned, much of my career is interconnected with the Bay Area. I first moved here 30 years ago in 1991 to join the faculty at UCSF. Then I moved to Stanford 20 years ago in 2001 as a professor of biology and neurology. A few years later, I was recruited to the biotechnology firm Genentech in South San Francisco, where I became the chief scientific officer directing 1,400 scientists in disease research and drug discovery for cancer and other illnesses. And then 10 years ago, in 2011, I left the Bay Area, as you heard, to become president of the Rockefeller University in New York City. It's a small biomedical research university, before returning back to Stanford 5 years ago in 2016. And I share this background to let you know that while I've been back in the Bay Area for 5 years, before I moved to New York, my wife Mary and I spent 2 decades in the region, first as residents in San Francisco, then Mid-Peninsula in San Mateo, and now in Santa Clara County. Also, our 3 children are all Bay Area kids, and 2 of the 3 are currently in the Bay Area, which is a blessing. So we're really well entrenched here. This is home for us. And I've been in the Bay Area long enough to see the ways the region has changed, and the ways that Stanford has changed also, as well as the spirit and the values that have remained constant over the years, like boldness, inclusivity, a commitment to improving our world. Of course, the last 18 months have presented unprecedented challenges to the region and to Stanford itself. When the threat of COVID-19 became clear in the spring of 2020, we refocused our operations entirely initially on responding to the pandemic. We transitioned to online learning. We pivoted our research enterprise to address COVID-19. We closed our campus to all but essential workers and some students. And then we started reopening gradually, focusing step by step on what could be brought back. First, elective surgeries in our hospital, then non-COVID related research, followed by graduate and professional students. This past spring, we were finally able to bring about half of our undergraduate class back to campus. And I'm really, really delighted that this fall, starting in the last few weeks, we welcomed our full student body back to campus, as well as our faculty and staff, of course, with health and safety measures in place to protect against the spread of COVID-19. And as we bring our community back together, we're also looking to the future. So I'd like to speak for a few minutes about some of the lessons we learned from our COVID-19 response and how we're applying these lessons to other great challenges that we face. In particular, we're focused on accelerating the application of knowledge along a steadfast commitment to fundamental research. When COVID-19 reached California in the early spring of 2020, Stanford worked effectively and efficiently with external partners to develop diagnostic tests and hasten trials of possible therapies. That was part of our pivot to focus on COVID-19. As one of a number of regional projects, faculty, staff, and students worked with local partners, including the City of San Jose and the County of Santa Clara's Department of Public Health, to leverage data to improve the efficacy of contact tracing, door-to-door testing, mobile vaccine siting, and more. Beyond medicine, researchers in the humanities, the social sciences, and other fields worked on insights and interventions to improve remote education, to reduce the spread among incarcerated populations, and understand how past pandemics have exacerbated inequality and what can be done about that. And I think this model of the university working with external partners to accelerate the application of knowledge, which we saw in spades as a result of COVID, has huge promise across countless fields of research. So as we look to the future, we're applying this model to other urgent challenges. First, to tackling climate change and ensuring the sustainability of our planet. So over the last few years, faculty in Stanford schools and institutes have made great strides in understanding the science of climate change and in developing innovative green technologies. But as we in California know all too well, the scale and the time frame of the climate crisis demand more. So a little over a year ago, in May of 2020, we announced our intention to develop a new school focused on climate and sustainability so that we could amplify our contributions to tackling and solving this great challenge. When it opens next fall, it will be Stanford's first new school in more than 70 years. Now, the new school is going to drive sustainability research and scholarship across the sciences and engineering, of course, but also the social sciences, humanities, law, business, and other fields. And at the heart of the school will be what we're calling a sustainability accelerator, which, as in the example I gave you with COVID, it's really aimed at working with partners in our region and beyond to rapidly translate knowledge into effective policy solutions and technology solutions. I really believe that climate change is the defining issue of the 21st century, and we at Stanford are putting our resources to work to meet it. Also, although the scale of the crisis is daunting, I actually have hope for what we can achieve by focusing our attention and our resources on building a more sustainable future. Second, through Stanford's Transforming Learning Accelerator, we're focusing on combining the science and design of learning to improve access and outcomes, learning outcomes on a large scale. The sudden widespread implementation of remote learning last year highlighted the importance of developing high quality digital learning models and also improving access to education across the board. One goal of our Transforming Learning Accelerator is to create rich, meaningful, and accessible digital learning opportunities for people over the entire course of their lives, while focusing on the kinds of skills that today's students will need in a very rapidly changing world. We're also working with local partners to improve educational opportunities in our region. For example, Stanford researchers are working with San Jose Aspires, a program that helps students from underserved neighborhoods in San Jose chart a path toward a post-secondary education. Together, they're conducting a multi-year study of the program's implementation and outcomes. And the goal is really to learn more about how we can most effectively reduce barriers to education for students of color, students from low-income backgrounds, and first-generation college students. As another example, the Stanford Impact Labs have convened our regional higher education community to consider the role of higher education in addressing racial inequality. And they're doing this as part of the Silicon Valley Community Foundation's Equity Forward initiative, which I'm proud to serve on the advisory committee for. Now, through these efforts and others, we're committed to working with local partners to help make a difference in our region and also to discover ways to improve equity and access more broadly. So the pandemic has made it absolutely clear how interconnected all of us are who live and who work in this region. We all rely on the commitment and the sacrifice of frontline workers who are members of our own communities, including healthcare workers at Stanford Hospital and other area hospitals. We all depend on our local businesses and the essential workers who have helped meet our daily needs during the pandemic, from groceries to pharmacies to takeout meals and more. We've all had the opportunity to connect with and take solace in the natural beauty of the Bay Area. We faced COVID together, and as we emerge from the pandemic, we at Stanford are really committed to strengthening those ties. In 2018, we established the Office of External Relations, headed by Martin Schell, as you heard earlier, with the goal of organizing and amplifying the university's engagement in our region, nation, and world. And as part of this effort, we've also established the Office of Community Engagement, headed by Megan Sweezy-Fogarty, also mentioned earlier, which is working to deepen relationships with the community that we touch. I know that this idea of deep engagement with the community is also at the heart of the Rotary. As Rotarians, you have a mission to foster civic engagement and service to your community. You take on real world problems and you use your talents and energy to make the world better. The Rotary is important to the civic life of our region. And in this challenging time, your commitment to service has never been more important, and it's a commitment that we at Stanford share with you. Now, before we move to your questions, I want to invite you to engage with Stanford and the resources that we have to offer the community. Our campus has reopened to the public, including our art museums, our performance spaces, our athletic facilities. Many programs are also still available online, including virtual seminars on topics from race and technology to global health to international relations. And you can find out more at community.stanford.edu. The staff in the Office of Community Engagement, again, led by Megan, who's here today, is also available to connect with you, to point you to resources if you can't find what you're looking for. While this last year has been challenging for all of us, I do want to take this opportunity to thank you again for everything all of you do to support our local community. I'm deeply grateful, as we all are. And with that, I'd like to hand it back to Janaki and Suzanne for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. First question is Art Weisbrot, retired bankruptcy judge.
Thank you very much for speaking to us today. I'd like you to address, please, the rapidly increasing cost of higher education, funded largely by the government and largely by student debt, and largely at very high interests, which basically ties up young people for their whole careers, many of whom won't ever be able to pay off the debt because they've chosen a career that is not remunerative, or at least not remunerative enough to pay. Now, I specifically am not saying specifically Stanford. I'd like you to address the question more broadly. If you want to talk about Stanford, which has a huge foundation, I'd like to hear that, but my question really is that it's a national problem.
Well, thank you for that question. I think that's a really important points. And since you give me the opportunity, I will start by saying what we're doing at Stanford, but then address the broader issue more generally, because it is a serious problem. As we looked at this problem, starting about 20 years ago, we realized that we needed to step in and develop robust financial aid. We have a need-blind admissions program that works as follows: that students are admitted to Stanford without consideration to their ability to pay. And then once they're admitted, we work to make it possible for them to come here. And some of the metrics that we have are that families with incomes below $150,000 pay no tuition at all. Those with incomes below $75,000 pay no tuition and no room or board. And there's a sliding scale beyond $150,000 where there's partial subsidy of tuition as well. So as a result of that, 82% of our students graduate without any student debt. The remaining students, the average debt is about $14,000. So not like the numbers that you hear sometimes of $100,000 of debt or crushing debt for many students. Because of this level of financial aid, it turns out that in terms of net price, after you factor in the financial aid, that Stanford is one of the most affordable universities in the country for low and middle income families. In fact, in one survey, it appeared we were the lowest cost for low and middle income families, less than state schools, for example. And that's reflected in the fact that if we look at the so-called FLY students, I think many of you know the acronym, first generation and low income students, nearly 20% of our newest class of undergraduates are in fact first generation college students. As a first generation student myself, my parents didn't go to college. It's something that is really meaningful to me, that I'm really proud of. So we have worked hard to enable access to Stanford. There are still obstacles. I'd be happy to talk about them. We are not done with our own journey. And we're working to extend access more broadly in a number of ways. But your question, I think, rightly pointed to the fact that this is a national problem. Our peers, I should say, have robust financial aid programs, but that is not always the case with most universities. And so there, the sort of relentless rise in tuition costs is creating the problems that you're talking about. I think there are a number of things that we need to attend to. First, we need to really focus on, if you will, getting maintaining the value of higher education across universities while reducing the costs, or at least keeping them in check. And that's something, we're part of a broader coalition of universities, the AAU, the Association of American Universities, which are the 65 top research universities in the United States. And there's a whole spectrum of financial aid programs, some like ours, very robust, others where they have fewer resources. It is a topic of conversation in these leading universities about how to make sure that we can continue to provide the same service or even better service, augment the service for our students, the education, while keeping costs in check. A big part of that as well, in terms of ensuring access and affordability, I believe, will be through online tools. And here, the pandemic, one of the silver linings, if you will, of the pandemic, is that every single university professor across the country is now fluent in online learning, in Zoom, in a way that they weren't before. And this has created a great opportunity to really try to leverage those online tools, first for our own students, although what we've learned also is that the importance and value of in-person instruction too, but hybrid situations can be valuable. But more broadly, enabling access for another generation of students through robust and rich online education. This is something that some universities had started pioneering over the past few decades. Now, as a result of the pandemic, many more are, and we are doubling down, accelerating. We had plans to extend our online education to reach students who don't have the benefit of coming to our campus, and also at much lower cost, but trying to maintain that quality. We're accelerating those efforts as well. It's a big focus here. So I do think attending to costs on the one hand and leveraging the online experience on the other are two things that will help address the problem that you have, I think, rightly pointed out.
Thank you so much, President. First of all, I am heartened to hear about Stanford as a regional university partner and the financial aid that you offer. That was fantastic to learn. But following that, I'm wondering if you can speak to how Stanford is thinking about investing and supporting local youth and increasing college-going rates, particularly support for diverse students from socioeconomic and racial ethnic background on their path to higher education. Is there specifically initiatives that Stanford is taking with high school students locally?
Yeah, and I'll say a few words, and if it's okay with you, I can also invite my colleague Megan Fogarty Sweezy, who's present, to add a few more, because she, the whole purpose of this new Office of Community Engagement is to be very intentional about these efforts. We've had for many years a number of programs that involve outreach and support to local high schools, to local youth. Faculty who go and help out. We have programs that bring students to campus as well. Again, as a result of the pandemic and as the result of the creation of this office, we're trying to build and increase those efforts. We try where possible. Our approach is to really try to leverage what Stanford can offer. Some of that is in terms of education, working with local school boards, for example. Some of it is in provision of certain types of services, whether they're legal or medical services as well. So what we're trying to do is to share our expertise beyond our walls to benefit the local community. So that's the operative principle. But if Megan is present.
Actually, if you don't mind, maybe I'll have Megan chat me privately if she's okay with me sharing contact info. Then if people want to learn more, we can have them reach out to Megan, and I'll be sure to post the website that we talked about.
That's great.
Okay,
or maybe she can put some in the chat.
That would be fantastic. Thank you. Richard?
This will be the easiest question of the day for sure. But what was the last department that you added 70 plus years ago?
Oh, the last school that we added was the School of Earth. In fact, yeah. So related. But this one will be focused a larger school that, in fact, the way we're doing it is we're going to be taking all of the results of that wonderful investment in earth sciences and earth science systems and the like, and then combining them with additional fields and additional departments to create this new school focused on climate and sustainability.
Interesting combination there. So, quick question for you back to online education. Do you have any idea the efficacy of online education versus in person? Have we had enough time, reflection to be able to know that yet?
Well, we are certainly doing studies, and it's actually there are many dimensions to that question. So, for example, it depends the kind of online education. Stanford, you may or may not know, has an online high school that's been operating for many years. There were just the national rankings of one of the national rankings of private high schools just came out last week, and ranked it number 12 in the country among private high schools. It's obviously a private high school. So some online education can go toe to toe with in-person education, and that would be an example of that. If the question is when people pivoted rapidly to put their courses online, what worked and didn't work? So there are a number of things that worked extremely well. Let's start with those that worked well. It turns out that if you have a class online, it's easier to use active learning techniques often than in person. It's easy to break people into small groups using the various functions you have online to get people to discuss an issue. That's one form of active learning. It's possible also to bring in guest speakers, from around the world much more easily than you can in a class. And also, by the way, typically if you're in person and you get someone to travel in, from a few hours away or fly in for the course, you sort of feel like you have to give them a whole hour, but maybe their contribution is only useful for 15 minutes. So people have leveraged those benefits of online education over the last year as we talk to our faculty about what's been going well. The things that are difficult online is, first of all, keeping people's attention for an extended period online is difficult. It is not easy. And secondly, for the faculty member, it's difficult to gauge the response of the audience. And so on the former problem of keeping people's attention, what people have learned is it's really important to break up the sequence online, to have a little bit of lecture, then break it up into small discussion groups, then come back so that people are constantly changing and aren't just sitting there staring at the screen, if you will, for an hour. And the other thing, gauging the response of the students, that remains a challenge, and we're hopeful that some of the geniuses working on the technology will find ways of improving that. The chat function, by the way, is one such way that's very beneficial. So chat is a big democratizer. Often in classes, the loudest person will ask all the questions. There are many people who'd be shy about asking questions who are willing to put them into the chat. So I guess your question was, which is better, or is it as good? There are pluses and there are minuses. Overall, if you ask our students and our faculty, they would prefer to be in person. However, what they've learned is they can have a very rich and rewarding online experience as well. And our challenge is to first incorporate some of those tools into the in-person experience. For example, have the in-person class, but then break into subgroups online. For example, maintain the chat, maintain some of the benefits of the online. But then also for people for whom the education will be fully online, as we've been discussing, they're really leveraging all of this knowledge to create the best formats for delivery of the education. And again, I've described a few of the ways in which we can do that, and that will become systematized and improved year in and year out. And certainly, again, it's something that we're committed to advancing as well.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the fact that Stanford is really in this world, and they're trying to do things that are important to all of us. There's one area, you've addressed climate change, you've addressed inequality and discrimination. There's one area that some of us are concerned about, and that's the unhoused. And in particular, with the unhoused, we feel that there's, at least some of us do, that one of the high driving issues is that of wealth inequality. And is there anything that Stanford is doing with regard to wealth inequality, and what can be done? How can it be addressed?
Yes. Absolutely. So you're absolutely right. The whole issue of wealth inequality, income inequality, is one of the defining problems of our time as well. And we see it in spades again in our local region and in California, not to mention our entire country. So we're working on two fronts, and often in all these things, on the one hand, we want to focus on, the research and teaching at the university, and the other, our direct engagement with the local community on these issues. In terms of research, we have many initiatives at the university focused on this issue of income inequality, trying to, really understand better the causes, the sources. Some of them are pretty obvious. But they're also trying to understand the structural factors that are at play. And more importantly, of course, building on that knowledge to ask what kinds of interventions can be used to mitigate, to reverse this kind of inequality, and to come up with policies that could be used either at a local or regional level or at a national level. So a big focus on scholarship in that. The Stanford Impact Labs, for example, which I mentioned earlier, have a big focus on that. The other area is working with our local community, and there we are working in a number of areas. Just two examples: the Office of Community Engagement is convening a monthly group of local service providers to look at the issues of the unhoused and of vehicle dwellers in the North County area, to understand the scope of the problem, the causes, and also come up with solutions. And then one of the Stanford Impact Labs is actually, the labs have a number of different areas of focus, but one of them is working very specifically with those who are homeless or on the verge of homelessness, to understand the impact of various regional factors in these communities, including the impact of climate change, and to focus on developing equitable adaptation strategies. So again, we want to deploy our resources in terms of research and education on the one hand, but also be an active member of the local community, partnering with others to address the issue directly.
Thank you so much. Back to a question about on-campus and space usage. So students are back on campus. I don't know if 100% of faculty and staff are back on campus, but what you're seeing as far as building usage and classroom usage and potential capital improvements and growth that is happening on campus and around campus, as we are coming out of the pandemic, are you seeing your real estate usage changing?
Am I seeing what's the last word?
Your real estate, your building capital usage changing.
Right. So a few things. So yeah, we're thrilled that we have the students back on campus. So we've invited all of our students back to campus. And most of our faculty are also, for the most part, with staff. Actually, it's interesting. And I think, as in any other organization in the Bay Area, or in fact across the country, there's a lot of work being done on trying to figure out flexible work schedules for our staff members, especially those who are not directly student facing. For those who are student facing, of course, we have students here 7 days a week. So we need staff here on campus. But there are a number of functions, some of the administrative functions, for example, that are not student facing. And we've been working to enable people to work from home. And try to work that out. I think every organization is experimenting right now with a balance of on-site and at-home work. A lot of our employees actually have found it very valuable to be able to work from home, from a family situation, or to avoid a commute and things like that. So we're experimenting with that, and that to the extent that we have. And I should say, we have some of our faculty research this and have researched this for years before COVID, and now even more so now after COVID. If you take polls of organizations across the country, companies, institutions like universities, and so on, it looks like people on average for such staff functions are looking at an average of 2.5 days on site, 2.5 days at home. Some do 2 and 3, some do 3 and 2. There are others that have variations on that theme, but if you look at the histogram, sort of the average is 2.5 days. That means less commuting, of course, and potentially less need for certain offices or buildings if you can have a way of sharing things, if you know, as opposed to leaving the offices empty. All that has to be worked out, of course, at our place as at all other places. But this potentially has the effect of reducing our need for certain types of facilities. There are other types of facilities that we won't lose a need for, and that is, you know, for example, research labs and, you know, certain areas of science that are breaking open. You know, if we look over the past few decades, you know, stem cell biology didn't exist 30 years ago, and when it exploded as a field, we added that as an area of focus, a very important area of biomedicine currently with huge potential in terms of treatments and therapies, and where we had to add some facilities for that. Our new school of focused on climate and sustainability involves one of our ambitions there is to build out areas that are not well represented at Stanford in order to create those synergies that are needed to really drive the field forward more rapidly. So that will require additional buildings. So we will be looking to have some expansion, but I should say, if you look at Stanford over the past 20 years, there was a huge amount of building that occurred. That has slowed down, and going forward, our long-range plan, our long-range vision that we developed, so I arrived 5 years ago. Over the next 2 years, we developed a long-range vision, and we've been fleshing it out since 2018, and that included, by the way, this new school focused on climate and sustainability. That long-range plan actually doesn't involve a lot of new facilities. What it involves is taking advantage of what we have to really focus our priorities in accelerating the impact of knowledge. As I said, I gave examples from sustainability, from COVID, from learning, and other fields as well. And also certain other types of scholarship areas that we think are particularly important. So we have a much bigger focus on programs and people in this long-range plan that we have, which is, you know, a decade-long long-range plan for the university compared to the past. So we'll still need to build some new facilities. We need to renew some. We have buildings that are at end of life that we have to, you know, take down and then replace with ones. We have some that are still seismically less than what we would like. And then there will continue to be important new areas of scholarship and application, but it will be less than in the past.
Mark, thank you very much. A contribution will be made on your behalf today to Cancer Care Point, an organization that many of us in the room support. I know you've had work in the cancer space in the past, and Janica has something very brief to say, and then I'm going to wrap it up.
All right, so there was somebody who was very curious what you think, how many points you think Stanford will beat Cal by on November 20th?
I think 21 points.
How about Notre Dame?
Thank you very much, Mark. Everyone here, next week our speaker will be Chance Cotrano, speaking on the decade of ecosystem restoration, tackling the biodiversity and climate crisis together. A reminder, we will have a Ring the Bell next week. It will not be Steve's progressive ring the bell. You can ring as many times as you want and pay as much money as you want. And also a reminder that Urban Vibrancy is doing lots of concerts every Friday afternoon downtown. They're spending a lot of money just trying to support our community. So please take some time, go out, listen to the concerts, have a beer, support our local businesses. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.